Thank you. Thank you for having me and thank you for creating this. Yesterday, you were encouraged to argue, which is a good thing to do. And I want to follow this lead and also give an encouragement. And I want to encourage all of you to exercise intellectual generosity. Because we who work outside academia, someone yesterday said in the real world, I don't know how real it is, but I know that we need ideas and we need knowledge. We might not understand all the empirical data or the details of your theoretical framework. Maybe we're not interested in it. But we do understand the reality that we face every day, we try to organize. As a trade unionist, I'm strongly aware that one of our main opponents is orthodox economics. Before we ever even get down to the bargaining table with employers, economists, and not just from academia, the central bank, or the government, but even our own, our labor movement economists, inform us that better wages will cause inflation, dooming everyone to a wage price spiral, insisting that wages will make possible economic stability, that lower wages will make possible economic stability and enhanced competitiveness. The labor movement is an unnatural bug in these economic models, a problem preventing their magical equilibrium mechanisms from doing the work. For years, the Icelandic labor movement was led by economists who would stand in front of a whiteboard and pull out a pen and start doing their maths. And there would be formulas and pluses and minuses and A's and B's and X's and whatever you have. And the result would be, and guess what? The result would be salaries can't be increased. So let us make only so-called moderate demands. And last year, and I should tell you that the Icelandic labor movement is one of the strongest in the world. We have the highest union density, I think, after North Korea. So we're pretty good. And last year, the Icelandic labor movement, led by industrial frontriders, that's the people who sign contracts first and then insist that the rest of us follow, designed collective agreements with salary increases below inflation, referring the central bank's ideology that inflation and salaries are so deeply connected that if you want inflation down, start with people's incomes. The hope, or to be more precise, the promise to working people was that interest rates would drop almost immediately. This was a year ago, they were 9.25 at the time. And guess what they are now, a year later? A whole year of salary rises below inflation. They're at 8 points. And they just went down by 0.5 the day before yesterday. And in the meantime, 1/4 of households have reached the end of their fixed rate term, resulting in a reality where medium income households in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, people who should have a fair share in the product of their labor, these households struggle economically if their dishwasher breaks down. Because whatever savings they might have been transferred to the banks. In the face of this economic narrative and the social power that backs it, people just get on with it. Somewhat accepting the politics that protect those who own, but transfer the burdens to those who work and those who have housing debts. Basically, all of us who are just exercising the universal human right of having a home. So when I say intellectual generosity, I am desperately calling for ideas and counter-narratives of how to combat this. How can I organize at least my union so that my board and my members understand that the economics ruling their lives are not based on unalterable laws of physics, but on political ideology? How can I encourage them to ask the right questions so that we can move towards a framework that works for working people and for the planet? And I want to give 2 examples of intellectual generosity. One is Clara Mattei. responding to my invitation to Iceland within minutes, and being on a plane a few weeks later to give a talk in our union headquarters in Reykjavik, happy to work around the resources that I had at the time, the resources that I could secure. And not only giving a brilliant talk, but also speaking to press, meeting with academia, and having conversations with anyone who would be bothered to listen. Another is Jamie Galbraith, who has answered my numerous emails where I'm trying to understand inflation, but even more importantly, the politics of inflation. He's always careful in his advice, as he's not the World Bank that goes around and tells everybody that the same solutions work everywhere. But he gives me the right questions to ask, the tools that I need to poke holes in the central bank's dogma. He gives me the words that I can use, sitting against the employer's economists, so that I can shock them by saying, well, you need to be able to think beyond the Phillips curve. If you can think at all. And this is intellectual generosity in praxis. So I'd say get together at conferences, define yourselves, argue about your empirical data, make sure it holds, we need it to hold, and develop your individual theoretical frameworks, but then get out. Share your thoughts, help us understand, and make sense of the reality that we face every day. Teach and learn, we need it, and the world desperately needs it. Thank you.